Rain fell like silver needles over the slanted roofs of Graymere, a crumbling village tucked between the sleeping hills. The wind howled low and constant, as if mourning something long forgotten. Alira stood barefoot in the mud behind her cottage, clutching a torn scarf. It had once belonged to her brother. The last piece. She stared at the place where the forest swallowed the path, where he had vanished 3 years ago without a single word. She had waited. Waited for him on her 13th birthday, for the whistle he always used to announce himself, for the smell of roasted chestnuts he'd sneak in from the market. Now she was 16, and all that remained was the scarf and a silence that gnawed at her bones. Every morning, she sold firewood and hollow root to the apothecary in town, barely enough to keep the hearth burning. No parents. Just the wind, the woods, and her memories. Alira spoke little, not because she was shy, but because no one ever really listened. Except Rowan. Rowan, with ink-stained hands and a crooked smile. He lived with his aunt, the village scribe, and spent his hours copying books no one read anymore. He and Alira had grown up as shadows beside one another. She, a girl shaped by absence. He, a boy who believed that stories held power, even when the world stopped believing in magic. "You dream again?" Rowan asked one morning as they walked the path to Graymere's crooked bridge. Alira nodded. "Same dream." "The mist?" She paused, looking out at the rolling fog that hugged the trees. "And a bell, but I never see where it comes from. Just feel it, in my ribs." Rowan didn't laugh or scoff like the others. He took her dreams seriously, like they were clues in a puzzle only he and Alira could solve. "Maybe it's not just a dream," he said. "Maybe it's something calling to you." Alira half smiled, but her eyes stayed fixed on the woods. Strange things had started happening in Graymere. At first, it was the birds. They stopped singing. Then the roots in the forest began twisting the wrong way, curling like they were trying to crawl out of the earth. People said it was the weather. Or bad luck. Or both. But Alira felt something different, like a door creaking open somewhere far away. And then there were the dreams. Each night, the same vision, she stood alone in a field of black grass beneath a violet sky. In the distance, a bell tolled once, heavy and low. She'd turn toward the sound, and the field would ripple, not with wind, but movement. As though something beneath the soil was waking. When she told Rowan, he pulled out an old book from his satchel, a crumbling folio written in some half-forgotten tongue. "Found this in the attic," he said, laying it out beside the riverbank. "Mentions a kingdom beneath the roots. Said to appear only when the veil grows thin." Alira brushed her fingers over the page. "The Vanishing Kingdom." They said it in unison. Rowan grinned. "Sounds like one of those bedtime tales." But something passed between them, an unspoken thought. What if it wasn't just a story? That night, Alira awoke to a tapping at her window. She sat up, breath held tight. The tapping came again, soft, deliberate. Like fingers on glass. She pulled the curtain aside. Nothing. Just fog. But as she leaned closer, she saw it, pressed faintly into the condensation. A symbol. A spiral enclosed in a diamond. The same as the one in Rowan's book. She stumbled back. Her breath clouded the air. And then, just outside the window, a voice. "Alira," she froze. Alira, it was soft, childlike. Familiar. "Leo," she whispered, heart stammering. Her brother's name. She bolted for the door, bare feet silent on the cold wooden floor. The wind had picked up, pulling at the trees like invisible hands. Her lantern flickered in the darkness as she stepped outside, scanning the mist. There, between the trees, movement. "Leo," she called out. No answer. She moved deeper into the forest. The air turned colder, the mist thick as breath. Her lantern glowed dimly, barely enough to light the roots beneath her. Every sound was muffled, swallowed by the fog, except one. A bell. Low. Distant. One toll. She turned in its direction. That's when she saw it, a figure standing ahead, half in shadow, half in light. It was small. Childlike. A boy with tousled hair. He looked like Leo, but somehow not. "Elira," he said again. She stepped forward. "Leo? Is it really?" But the boy turned and ran into the trees. She chased him, branches whipping her arms and legs. The forest bent strangely around her, like it was rearranging itself. Her lungs burned. Her feet slipped on moss. Then, suddenly, silence. The boy was gone. Elira stood alone in a clearing she didn't recognize. Tall stones encircled the space, etched with the spiral diamond mark. The trees here grew backward, their roots above ground, branches buried beneath. And in the center of the clearing stood a door. An ancient stone arch, freestanding, covered in moss. No building, no frame, just a door that shouldn't exist. Her lantern flickered out. "Elira," a voice shouted, this one real, urgent. "Rowan." He burst through the mist, panting. "I followed you, what are you doing out here?" "I heard the bell too." He stopped short, staring at the door. Neither of them spoke. From behind the door, a sound. Scraping. Whispering. Something breathing. The stone creaked. The door began to open. The door groaned as it opened, a sliver of blackness yawning between the mossy stones. Cold air spilled out, heavy with the scent of salt and rot. Elira took a step back, instinct screaming to run. Rowan grabbed her arm. "We shouldn't be here." But she couldn't look away. Beyond the door was no corridor or chamber, just fog and stars. A sky too dark, too deep. Like staring into the bottom of the sea. And for a moment, Elira felt it again, that hollow tug in her chest. Like something inside her recognized that darkness. Then, the door slammed shut. The sound echoed through the forest, and the mist that had clung so thickly began to thin. The clearing returned to stillness. Only the strange door remained, silent and unmoving. Rowan exhaled. "What was that?" Elira's hands trembled. "I think it's calling me." They didn't speak the rest of the way back. But Elira knew something had changed. The forest had noticed her. The next day, the wind carried the scent of brine from the distant coast, odd for a village so far inland. Elira woke to find a small object lying at the foot of her bed. A shell. Pale green, ridged like a kabibi, and glowing faintly. She picked it up. It pulsed warmly in her hand, like a heartbeat. Before she could think, a knock echoed through her cottage. A stranger stood at the door. A hunched old man in robes that shimmered like riverlight, skin the color of old wood, eyes deep in silver. "I've been sent," he said. "You opened the gate." "I didn't, you saw it." "And it saw you." Rowan appeared beside her, clearly having followed the man's arrival. "Who are you?" The old man bowed slightly. "I am Eru, one Salbulario, now nothing more than a whisper in the margins. But I served the last ones who walked between worlds. Your blood remembers them." Elira frowned. What do you mean my blood? Eru stepped into the room without permission, scanning the walls as though remembering something long gone. Your family once kept the threshold between this world and another. Before the kingdom vanished. My brother, he disappeared. Do you know why? Eru looked at her, gently. I believe he was taken by what stirs behind that door. A force that was sealed long ago, but the seal is weakening. He reached into his cloak and drew out a faded journal, its leather cover burned at the edges. This belonged to your mother. My mother died when I was 3. She didn't die, Elira. She vanished, on the same day the kingdom last opened. Elira's breath caught. Eru placed the glowing shell in her hand again. This is a mutya. A gift from the Shokoi of the southern tides. It will guide you when your eyes can't. But beware, holding it binds you to what comes next. Rowan leaned closer. Why now? Why her? Because the Aswangs have begun to feed again, Eru said. The door's opening isn't the beginning, it's a symptom. The balance is shifting. Soon, they'll cross fully. Elira looked down at the mutya. Its glow had dimmed, pulsing in rhythm with her breath. I don't want this. I never asked for this. No one ever does, Eru said softly. But blood remembers. And yours is not only marked, it is chosen. That night, sleep came restlessly. She dreamed again of the violet sky, but this time, the black grass was burning. The bell rang twice now. And the earth cracked open. From beneath the soil rose shapes, long-limbed, hunched, teeth like daggers. Aswangs. But not like the stories. These moved like shadows soaked in bloodlight, crawling over one another, hungry for warmth. She ran in the dream. Fell. And turned to see one of them staring down at her. But it wore her brother's face. Elira awoke to the mutya vibrating faintly in her palm. The window creaked open, though she hadn't touched it. Outside, mist rolled in from the forest again, thicker, darker. A whisper in the wind, Elira, she stumbled outside, Rowan appearing from his own door across the path. You felt it too? She nodded, and together they moved toward the woods, where the trees had twisted further overnight, bending unnaturally, bark blackened and split like infected skin. Eru waited at the edge. You dreamt the truth, he said without turning. They are stirring. He pulled a dagger from his cloak. Not metal, but bone. This belonged to your grandmother. Made from the rib of a sigbin. You will need it. Elira hesitated, but took it. Eru continued. The curse was not born in your family, but it found fertile ground there. Long ago, one of your ancestors made a pact. They opened the gate for power, and the gate never truly closed. And now it's my fault, she asked bitterly. No, Eru said. But it is your burden. They entered the woods. The deeper they went, the stranger it became, trees whispered in languages Elira didn't know. The air thickened. And then, they reached it. A corpse. Hanging from a tree. Or what remained of one. Its limbs were drained of color, skin gray and sagging. Eyes wide open, mouth frozen in a scream. Rowan turned away, gagging. Elira, Eru said quietly. This is only the beginning. She stared at the corpse, noticing something carved into the tree trunk beside it. A spiral in a diamond. Her family's mark. Eru's voice was grim. They've started marking their prey. Elira's breath caught. And then, she heard it. A sound between a growl and a whimper. From the trees. She turned. There, half hidden in the shadows, was a creature, long-limbed, backward-jointed, skin slick and black like oil. Its face was wrong. Twisted. But in its eyes, something familiar. Her mother's. Elira, it rasped and lunged. The creature lunged. Elira flinched, heart hammering, but Eru moved faster. With one motion, he raised the mutia in her hand, and a burst of light shot from its shell, blinding and blue. The thing screamed, shriveling into mist, vanishing into the shadows like smoke blown away by a gale. The forest fell silent again. Not peaceful, waiting. Elira stared at the spot where the thing had stood. Its eyes. Her mother's eyes. "She's dead," she whispered. Eru's face was grim. The Aswangs twist what they touch. They remember what you fear. But it knew my name. Back at her cottage, Elira sat by the hearth, clutching the mutia as if it could anchor her to something real. Rowan sat across from her, face pale in the firelight. "It wore her face," she said. "My mother's." "Are you sure it wasn't just, I know what I saw?" Rowan lowered his gaze. "Maybe they're using her. Or maybe she's not, gone." Elira didn't answer. Her thoughts churned like a storm tide, full of broken images, her brother disappearing, the whispering trees, the door that opened into nothing. And now, this. What if she opened the door, she asked suddenly. What if she made the pact Eru talked about? Rowan met her eyes. "You think she betrayed you?" Elira didn't reply. She didn't know what to believe. That night, sleep didn't come. She paced her tiny cottage, the mutia glowing faintly from her pocket. Shadows stretched oddly across the walls. The wind outside carried whispers, none in a language she recognized, but they scraped across her nerves like thorns. Near dawn, she went outside. The forest edge shimmered under moonlight, quiet but charged. Elira wandered the path toward the clearing where the door had appeared, but stopped halfway. Something moved in the trees. Not one figure. 3. They walked unnaturally, shoulders hunched, limbs crooked like broken twigs. Elira crouched, holding her breath. They didn't see her. But they smelled her. One paused, sniffing the air, its head twitching. Then it slowly turned, a face blank, eyes glassy. Not an Aswang. Not fully. But not human either. It was a spirit walker, half-possessed. Eru had warned her of them, villagers lured by whispers or cursed objects, caught between their own soul and something hungrier. The three stalked down the path and vanished into the fog. Toward the village. Elira stood frozen. She should run. Tell someone. Warn them. But all she could think about was her mother, and the way the creature had spoken her name with such familiarity. At midday, she returned to the ruins beyond Graymere. Stone markers hidden deep in the earth, her mother's old journal had mentioned them once. Rowan followed, reluctantly. They found one circle of stones half buried in moss. In the center, a slab, carved with the same spiral diamond mark. Elira knelt, brushing dirt from the stone. She remembered the lullabies her mother sang when she was very small. Half-rhymes in a forgotten tongue. Words that made no sense, but always calmed her tears. Rowan noticed her expression. "What are you thinking?" Elira hesitated. That maybe my mother didn't vanish. Maybe she was hiding something. Maybe she chose to leave. Rowan didn't answer right away. She could have made the pact to protect you, he said. Or Leo. But if she gave me this legacy, Elira closed her eyes. Why does it feel like a curse? That evening, Eru called them both to a stream hidden deep in the valley, where the shokoi once sang under the moonlight. Now, the stream was dry. The banks were lined with small, smooth stones, each marked with names. "These are the lost," Eru said. "Those taken. Those changed. And those who gave themselves willingly." Elira's eyes scanned the names. Her mother's wasn't there. But Leo's was. She staggered back. "No," she breathed. "No, he's alive. I saw him. I heard his voice." Eru knelt beside her. "Aswangs mimic the ones we love. They crawl into our dreams and memories. Not all voices are real, child." "But what if they are?" Elira snapped. "What if he's trapped, like her?" Eru placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then you must decide. Go forward, or turn away." Elira looked at the mutia. It pulsed, a little brighter now. Warmer. She turned away from the dry riverbed and whispered, "I don't know if I can." That night, she wandered alone. The village was quieter than usual, too quiet. Even the crows didn't caw. She passed by her brother's old hiding place near the stone well, where he'd stashed sweets and carved his name in the stone. She traced the letters with her fingers. Lioeli, only 2 names carved there. She sat beside it and let the memories come, his laughter, their secret codes, the way he used to cover her ears during thunderstorms and tell her stories of queens and monsters. She missed him so much it hurt. And for the first time in years, she cried. When she rose, fog had crept in again. But this time, it carried footsteps. She turned. Shapes moved at the edge of the road. Not just spirit walkers this time. One stepped forward, skin stretched too tightly over its bones, eyes glowing yellow like lantern flame. It didn't speak. It smiled. Elira's breath caught. She reached for the dagger Eru had given her, but her hands shook. Another figure stepped forward. Taller. Dressed in her father's old traveling cloak. She froze. "Papa?" The figure paused, then its smile twisted. Too wide. Too sharp. It wasn't him. But it knew. "Elira," it purred. "Come home." She screamed, and light burst from the mutia again, just enough to startle the things into backing away. Rowan came running from the trees, torch in hand. The creatures hissed at the flame and scattered, retreating into the dark. Elira collapsed. Rowan caught her, helping her up. "Are you okay?" She clutched the mutia. "They know who I am. They're using my memories. My family." Rowan met her eyes. "Then maybe it's time to stop running from your blood." That night, Elira sat in silence. Her mother might have made a terrible choice. Her brother might be lost. But the kingdom hadn't vanished. It had waited. Now the gate stirred. The curse lived in her blood. And the evil coming wouldn't stop. Unless she stood against it. And yet, part of her still wondered, what if the only way to save her family was to betray everything else? The mutia's glow had dimmed again, like a fading heartbeat. Elira traced its smooth surface in the dark, sitting on the floor of her cottage. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, rattling the shutters and twisting the shadows into sharp claws. She was tired. So tired. Rowan sat across from her, stirring a cup of bitter tea. The silence between them was heavy, full of things unsaid. "Why won't you talk to me?" he finally asked, voice low. Elira swallowed. "Because I don't know what to say." Rowan's eyes searched hers, full of worry and something else, hurt. I'm trying to help. But you're shutting me out. She looked away, guilt gnawing at her. She had to protect him. If the darkness creeping closer sensed her weakness, it would consume them both. I'm scared, she admitted quietly. Of what's coming. Of what I'm becoming. Rowan nodded slowly. I am too. But the distance between them had grown, like a shadow stretching at sunset. He was her anchor, but lately, she felt like a storm that might snap the rope. The village had changed. Windows shuttered tight before nightfall. Lanterns flickered unevenly on the streets. The air smelled of smoke and wet earth, as if the land itself mourned what was to come. Eru appeared one evening, his eyes sharper than ever. They are gathering, he said. The Aswangs, the spirit walkers, even darker things stir beyond the veil. Alara held the Mutya closer. How do I stop them? Eru shook his head. You don't stop the tide. You hold the dam. For now. He handed her a small pouch filled with dried herbs and bones. This will protect you for a while. But protection is fleeting. You must prepare yourself. Mentally. Physically. Alira's heart sank. She had no idea if she was ready for anything. That night, she dreamt again. The violet sky bled into black, the ground cracking open like a wound. From the depths rose shadows, twisted, howling shapes with eyes of flame. One stepped forward, a figure cloaked in her mother's face. Join us, it whispered. Let go of the pain. Become whole. Alira tried to run, but her feet were heavy, her body sinking into the earth. Why do you resist? The figure asked, voice like silken poison. Alira's chest tightened. Because I have to. And she woke, gasping for breath. Days passed in a haze. Her bond with Rowan frayed. He wanted to help, but she pushed him away, terrified of dragging him deeper into the darkness. Why won't you trust me? He said one afternoon, frustration and sadness mingling in his voice. I'm protecting you, she replied sharply. Rowan's face twisted with pain. I'm not a child, Alira. Her eyes stung with tears she refused to shed. Signs of the enemy's growing power crept into every corner of her world. The well near her home ran dry. Flocks of crows circled endlessly overhead. Whispers followed her through the village streets, voices no one else heard. Even the Mutya's glow faltered, pulsing weakly in her hand. Eru warned, they test your limits. Your resolve. They seek cracks to break through. Alira nodded, swallowing her fear. One evening, as dusk settled, Rowan and Alira walked the edge of the forest. They heard movement in the shadows, soft footsteps, rustling leaves. A figure stepped forward, a young girl, eyes empty, skin pale as moonlight. The spirit walker. Alira raised the Mutya, but the girl only smiled sadly. You can't save us all, she whispered, fading into mist. Rowan grabbed Alira's arm. We need to stick together. She nodded, but inside, the doubt gnawed stronger. Back in her cottage, Alira stared at the carved dagger Eru had given her. Did she have the strength to wield it? To face the horrors waiting beyond the door? Was she truly the chosen one, or just a girl lost in a vanishing kingdom? The night deepened, and the wind's whispers grew louder. Alira wrapped her shawl tight and stepped outside. Above her, the stars were swallowed by clouds, and the world seemed to hold its breath. The battle was coming. And she still wasn't ready. Alira awoke to the chill of dawn creeping through her window. The Mutya, always warm against her skin, felt cold, unnaturally so. She sat up, heart thudding. Something was wrong. Rowan was gone. The cottage door stood ajar. No sign of struggle. Only a faint trace of smoke lingered in the air, twisted with an acrid scent she couldn't place. Alira's breath hitched. She grabbed the mutia, clutching it tightly. "Rowan," she called, voice trembling. No answer. Outside, the village was stirring, but whispers trailed behind her like shadows. Villagers avoided her gaze. Fear and suspicion twisted their faces. Eru appeared suddenly, emerging from the mist near the stream. "Alira," he said gravely, "something has shifted." "What happened to Rowan?" Eru's eyes darkened. "He's been taken. Or worse, turned." Alira shook her head, disbelief crashing over her like a wave. "No. He wouldn't, they are clever," Eru warned. "They prey on our trust." Alira searched the woods for hours, calling Rowan's name until her voice was hoarse. Then she saw it. A mark carved deep into the bark of an ancient tree, a sigil she didn't recognize, swirling and sharp. Eru approached, face pale. "That is the mark of Capria." "Alira," he said slowly, "there is a higher power among the Aswangs you do not yet understand. Capria is the Shadow King, a ruler of darkness who commands the Aswang's fiercest legions." Alira's hands trembled. "Why now? Why here?" "Because your family's curse is bound to his rise," Eru said. "And he knows you hold the key to his defeat, or his throne." That night, Alira's dreams twisted into nightmares. Capria stood before her, cloaked in shadows that writhed like living smoke. "Your blood is the gateway," he whispered. "Join me, child. Embrace your legacy and wield power beyond imagining." Alira tried to run, but her feet sank into blackened earth. "Betray them," he commanded. "Betray your friends. Your family." She woke with a start, sweat soaking her skin. The next morning, Eru revealed a secret he had long kept hidden. "Your mother was once a guardian of the veil, a protector of balance between worlds," he explained. "But when she vanished, she was bound by a terrible choice. To save the kingdom, she sealed part of her soul with Capria's essence. Your bloodline carries that seal." Alira's mind reeled. The burden was heavier than she imagined. "Does that mean I'm cursed?" "Not cursed," Eru said. "Chosen. But the path you take now will define your fate, and the fate of all." A sudden rustling in the woods interrupted them. Emerging from the shadows was a figure Alira never expected to see, Leo. Her brother. But his eyes were glassy, distant. He stepped forward, voice hollow. "Sister," Alira's breath caught. "Leo? Is it really you?" He shook his head slowly. "No. I am his shadow." Leo's gaze shifted to Eru. "You cannot stop the darkness." Eru stepped forward, chanting softly. The air thickened. Shadows writhed. Leo's form flickered, revealing a dark, twisted creature beneath. Alira felt tears burn her eyes. "He's been claimed," she whispered. The forest seemed to close in around them. Capria's power was growing. Alira tightened her grip on the mutia. "I won't let you take him," she vowed. Eru nodded. "But remember, Alira, sometimes the greatest battle is within." As dawn broke, Alira faced a choice. Trust Eru and fight. Or face the darkness alone. Her heart pounded. Because the war was no longer just outside, it was inside her, too. The night was heavy, thick with fog and silence. Alira stood at the edge of the clearing, the mutia burning like a beacon in her palm. Her breath came in shallow gasps, heart pounding a frantic rhythm that echoed through the stillness. Across the clearing, the shadows shifted. A figure stepped forward. Capria. Tall, cloaked in darkness that seemed to drink the light around him. His eyes gleamed with cold fire. "Welcome, child of blood and shadow," he said, voice like a chill wind. Alira gripped the mutia tighter. "I'm not yours." Capria smiled, a slow, cruel curve. "You don't know what you are. Or what you could become." The air crackled with tension. "You're using my family," Alira spat. "You twisted my brother, my mother." He laughed, low and hollow. "Their souls are but pieces in the game. You could join me. Rule at my side." No, Alira's voice broke, but her resolve hardened. "I will end this." The clearing erupted as Capria unleashed shadows that writhed like living snakes. Alira raised the mutia. A burst of light exploded, pushing the darkness back. But the shadows closed in again, fierce and relentless. From the mist, Leo appeared, half shadow, half brother, eyes begging for release. "Alira," he whispered, voice strained, "help me." Her heart tore apart. Eru's voice echoed from the trees. "The mutia can sever the bond, but the cost will be great." Alira hesitated. Capria sneered. "Sacrifice your love or your soul. Choose." Tears blurred her vision. The battle raged on, the mutia glowing fiercely in her hand, shadows clawing at her every step. She reached out to Leo, the brother she loved and mourned. "Hold on," she whispered. With a prayer to her mother's spirit, she thrust the mutia forward. A blinding light enveloped Leo. The shadows screamed and writhed, then shattered. Leo collapsed, gasping. Capria snarled, fury blazing. "You may have saved him, but the gate is open." Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. The earth cracked, and from the chasm emerged a monstrous figure, larger, darker than Capria. A primal force of rage and hunger. Alira's breath caught. Capria laughed, stepping aside. "Meet the true darkness." The new threat lunged. Alira dodged, heart hammering. Eru appeared beside her, chanting an ancient incantation. Together, they fought the beast, but it was relentless. Alira realized the mutia's light wasn't enough. She looked at Leo, still weak but alive. "I have to finish this," she said. Eru nodded solemnly. Alira stepped into the chasm's edge, mutia raised. She whispered the words her mother once taught her, the lullaby of binding and release. Light spilled forth, pure, fierce, and blinding. The monstrous figure shrieked, dissolving into nothingness. Capria screamed in rage, his form flickering. "You cannot win." Alira faced him, tears streaming. "I already have." But as Capria faded, a final shadow slipped from the darkness, a figure in Eru's form. Alira gasped. "Not all who guide are allies," the shadow hissed. Eru's eyes flickered, shifting to something cold and alien. Alira's world tipped. The true battle was only beginning. The first light of dawn filtered through the trees, painting the world in soft gold. Alira stood at the edge of the village, the mutia's glow now a faint pulse against her palm. The battle had ended. Or so it seemed. The village was quiet, still healing. Rowan was safe, though scarred by the darkness that had tried to claim him. Leo, her brother, was recovering slowly. The curse that bound him had weakened but not vanished. Eru was gone. Alira had watched him disappear into the mist the night after the fight, his part in the war finished, or perhaps just another beginning. Her heart ached with loss. She had sacrificed so much: trust, innocence, and the simplicity of her old life. But she had gained something too. A fierce strength rooted not in magic or destiny, but in love and choice. Alira walked through the village, faces familiar but changed. Some looked at her with gratitude. Others with fear. She was no longer just a girl from the outskirts. She was the bearer of a legacy, one that demanded courage every day. That evening, she sat beneath the ancient tree, the one marked by Capria's sigil. The mukia's light flickered softly. Memories came flooding back, the laughter of her mother, the warmth of Rowan's smile, the fierce determination in Leo's eyes. She whispered a silent promise. The world beyond the veil was still dark, still dangerous. But Alira knew she would face it again. Not alone. As the stars began to shine, she closed her eyes and felt the quiet power of hope. In the end, it is not the darkness we conquer, but the light we choose to carry forward.